Hey guys, EthDo here, and today I'm back with a new video. In today's video, we're going to be counting down the top 5 enchantments in Minecraft. This is going to be my own opinion, but I'm also going to be taking into consideration the community's opinion too. Now, we've been ranking these based on how good they are at survival and PvP, so if one's really bad at one and it's kind of alright at the other one, it's not going to get high up on the list. Something like Unbreaking, which is pretty much pointless in PvP, isn't going to get high up on this list. But something that's equally good at both, or just generally really good at one and moderately good at the other, that's going to get it quite high up too. So one quick thing as well, the enchantment has to kind of hold up on its own. If you have an enchantment that only really works if you have another enchantment with it, then that's not going to really count here. It's got to be good on its own, or at least usable on its own, like to the extent that you're still getting a fair amount of benefit from it, even if it is better with other enchantments. So first of all, we have two honourable mentions before we get into the top 5. First of which is Thorns. Now Thorns is an armour enchantment, and it's really good in PvP. If you need to quickly drink a potion of regeneration or eat a golden apple in a fight, and you obviously can't hit back with your sword because you're eating the apple or whatnot, then Thorns will actually do some damage to the player attacking you without you actually doing the attack yourself, which is pretty useful. In survival, not so much. I guess against mobs it can be a little useful, but it's just not to the same extent to which it is useful in PvP. And if you've got good armour in survival anyway, you're not going to really have that same desperate situation which you do in PvP, where you literally need to eat a apple now or a regeneration potion, because you can of course respawn or whatnot. It's just generally not as useful, but it's still kind of cool. It's quite useful, hence why it's up into our honourable mentions list. And the other is Silk Touch. Now Silk Touch is again a useful one, more so in survival, really not at all in the PvP. But in survival it can be quite cool. You can get ice blocks, and you can also smash glass and you actually get the glass back when you're building a house, which is really useful as well. But generally in PvP it's not very useful, and it's not hugely useful in survival, but it's pretty cool. I quite like smashing the glass, and so that you actually get your glass back. So if you make a mistake, it can be so annoying on survival when you can't get the glass back and you're like, damn it, I have to now go and smelt more, and if you don't have enough sand, then it just gets really irritating. So it's quite useful, and obviously getting ice is quite cool too, among other blocks. So let's get into the top 5. Fifth spot is going to go to Infinity. Now Infinity isn't hugely helpful for you, but it's just awesome to know that you've got an infinite amount of arrows. As long as you have one arrow with Infinity, you can shoot as many arrows as your bow can take until it breaks, which is pretty cool. So it's obviously really good for PvP, and it's also useful in survival. If you go to fight the Ender Dragon and you run out of arrows before it's like lowering down to attack you, then you're just stuffed. Like if you haven't taken out the regen thingies, then that's just going to be really annoying for you. And so Infinity is really helpful and a really good enchantment to get. Protection makes it into the number 4 spot. And the reason Protection has gotten quite high is with Protection, maybe some people don't think of it like this, but it actually saves you your higher precious minerals. You can make iron armor with full Protection 1 or Protection 2 and get it quite close or even surpass the protection worth of diamond. So you can save on diamond armor and get an iron armor instead, which is obviously found in a lot more abundance than diamond, which is obviously quite useful for you. Saves time looking for diamonds, so generally quite a good enchantment. Number 3 is going to go to Fire Aspect. This is one of my personal faves because in PvP you can hit people, and when they're on fire it's really annoying for them. That's obviously going to do hearts to them, and they're having to stop to water bucket themselves to get the fire off, and in that time you can get hits where they're not hitting you back. Generally really good PvP strategy to use there. But also the fact that you can get cooked food from animals if you use Fire Aspect. So if you kill a pig in survival, you're going to get cooked pork, which is obviously a really good food source, especially with chicken. Like raw chicken is absolutely terrible food source, whereas cooked chicken is really good. So you save on your coal, you save time smelting stuff, generally quite useful. Number 2 on the list goes to Sharpness. Now, the reason Sharpness has gotten quite high is because even at a low level it is very effective. If you get Sharpness 1 on an iron sword, that makes it better than a diamond sword in terms of attack damage. That's really useful in PvP. If you can only do one enchantment, say you're on Hunger Games, Sharpness is the one you want to get. When you get Smite on the enchantment table in the Hunger Games, that's just like so annoying. That's like game over sometimes. It can be a huge difference. It's like you get plus 1.25 when you get Sharpness 1, which is a huge difference. I mean, that's the difference between a stone sword and an iron sword between a diamond sword. So that's really quite useful to get. And the fact that it's actually so useful at a very low level is pretty awesome. In survivals, it can be useful if you're going to fight the Wither. Sharpness is an essential, so you can get that extra hits, so you don't have to use as many hits. And it actually saves on your item durability. You might think unbreaking, get that save your item durability. But actually, if you've got Sharpness and you don't have to hit as many times, you're actually saving on your durability, which is quite good. But the number one spot here has gone to Fortune. Now, Fortune isn't hugely useful in PvP, admittedly. If you're playing a really long game like ultra hardcore, then maybe it is. But this one's mainly down to its survival skills. It's so useful in survival that its lacking in PvP is made up for by the fact that when you mine diamond, you're getting so much extra diamond. Mining emeralds, you get more emeralds. It doesn't work for the other rules, unfortunately. But it's just so useful. You can bring in so much diamond armor, just diamonds in general. If you're going to go for the beacon at this highest level with all the diamond blocks, or whichever blocks you want to go for, Fortune is an absolute necessity. And also, not many people actually use Fortune for this, but actually, if you hit your crops with Fortune, you'll actually get more of them back. I know it works with potatoes and carrots. Don't think it works as well with wheat, because it gives you more seeds back, not more wheat, which is a bit annoying. Basically, whatever you plant in, you get more of, which is really useful when you're like mining carrots or potatoes. I actually did a little experiment to test it earlier. I had 4 potato patches down. I broke them all without Fortune, got 8 back, and I did it with Fortune 3, and I got 21, I think it was, back, just from the 4, which is really massive improvement. So it's generally a really good one there. It's going to give you more ores, not more ores, but more diamonds, more minerals, which in turn is going to be more armor, more cool stuff, and of course more food as well from the crops, which is really useful. And it's worth paying out those extra levels for. I know it's normally you have to go to quite a high level to get a really good, decent enchantment of Fortune, but even Fortune 1 is generally just useful for you. And it's worth it because you get so much benefit out of it. Hopefully you've enjoyed this list. Whether you agree or disagree, please take 1 second to hit the like button below, and thanks for watching.